Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to provide brief explanations of the answers for Careful Reading Practice 1, Text 2. Let's start with question 1. According to paragraph A, specialization is a strategy that. If you go back to the text, you will see here that the strategy for survival adopted by animal species, some now extinct and some still extant, has been specialization. Starting from this sentence, we have more explanations about this strategy. Over time, each species developed a life-sustaining harmony with its surroundings. As a result, they flourished. Here, the writer means that when the species built harmony with their environment, they flourished. It means they survived. They were good. However, when conditions on Earth changed, their habitats changed too. And what happened at the end? The species failing to adjust, which were not successful to adapt to their changed habitats, disappeared from the face of the earth. So they couldn't survive, they became extinct. That's why it's a strategy that allows animals to survive but cannot always prevent extinction. Sometimes the species may fail, may not be successful. That's why the correct answer is B. You can also see in parentheses why option A and C were not the correct answers here. Question 2. Why does the writer give the fish and frog example in paragraph B? The answer is that different qualities are important at different times. Over a period of years, for example, the temperature of a lake may rise. Okay, we have a rise in the temperature of a lake. In this case, the only animals that can survive in the lake are the fish and frogs. Why? Because they can tolerate increased heat. They can survive. But what happens if the lake dries up completely? Some frogs, which are better long-distance jumpers, might jump as far as a nearby lake. They can find another lake thanks to their ability to jump long distances. And as a result, they can survive, but all of its fish would become extinct. They would not survive. Why? Because no fish species can live without water. This shows that a species may not have solved its problem of survival by adapting to its surroundings only. So the message that the writer tries to give us here is that adaptation is not the only solution to survival. It is not enough to survive. So fish were lucky in the first scenario, but then the lake dried up and they became extinct. So adaptation is not enough to survive, not only itself. When we look at the third question, it asks which of the following can be concluded from paragraph C. Okay, let's have a look at this highlighted part. Not only the trait of adaptability, but adaptability to an ever-changing environment is the key to survival. So here, this sentence is the key information for the answer to question 3. An ever-changing environment means an environment that is continuously changing, non-stop changing. So the quality of adaptability is important, but our adaptability to an ever-changing environment is the most important thing, is the key to our survival. If you remember the fish and the frog example, the frogs were lucky in both cases. When the temperatures rose and also when the lake dried up, they were lucky because They had the ability to adapt to the lake water that was getting warm, and also they could jump to another lake that was nearby thanks to their physiology. So this shows that they had the ability to adapt to the changing situations. So therefore, adaptation must be a continuous process for the survival of species. Next, we have question 4. Where in paragraph D does the following sentence belong? As you also know, this kind of questions are common in the English proficiency exam. In this kind of, while answering these questions, you should be careful with the sentences that comes before the pointed parts and also after them. Actually, it's a good idea to read the whole paragraph to reach the correct answer. Here, the writer first talks about how lucky human beings are. We are very capable of adapting to new situations. We can food sources to nourish our bodies. Humans' limits of survival and effective functioning are broader than those of other species. So we are very lucky in terms of finding alternatives for survival and feeding ourselves. However, this doesn't mean that each individual person is almost infinitely adaptable. Infinitely means like forever, continuing forever. It doesn't mean that each person is infinitely adaptable. It is humankind as a whole that's remarkably adaptable. So what matters is not only one individual, the whole humankind. The answer is B. Let's place this sentence in blank B. Actually, individual human beings have survived under conditions which they themselves would have called impossible. So individual people survived under conditions, but they would have never imagined they could do it alone. But they did it. But how did they do it? They did it in these kind of conditions. Look, guys, here you have the word conditions, and in the following sentence you have the example of these conditions: natural catastrophes such as earthquakes, floods, and famines, and man-made catastrophes like war. So you first mention these conditions and then you give the examples of them in the following sentence. The point here is that mankind has survived over the ages under more varied conditions than any one person encounters in a life. So mankind as a whole, a group of people, we can survive many conditions, but we cannot do them alone. Okay, so these are the examples of these conditions that only one individual could not have been able to survive alone. That's why the answer is B. Yes, let's have a look at question 5. Which statement is true according to paragraph D? Here we have A. Let's have a look at the whole options here. Humankind has mainly survived man-made disorders. Is this correct? Is this true? It's not true because in the text the writer says that humankind has survived both natural and man-made disorders. See, we also have their examples here: natural catastrophes and man-made catastrophes. So this is not true. B. Individuals have a limitless potential for adaptation. Limitless means infinite, never-ending potential for adaptation. Is this what the writer was discussing in the paragraph? No. Here the writer says this doesn't mean that each individual person is almost infinitely adaptable. This doesn't mean that. So the writer doesn't say that people have limitless potential for adaptation. So it's not true. What about C? Each person has distinct limits compared to whole species. This is true. Look, we must distinguish then between what a person can do and what people as a whole can do. Each person has their limits and they are necessarily narrower than those of their species as a whole. Each person has their limits, arkadaşlar. Each person has distinct limits. One human being can do something that another human being cannot. I can have the ability to do something specific, but you might not be able to do it. So every person is different. Every person has their own limits. Okay, that's why C is true according to paragraph D. And finally, we have question 6. This is the last question. It asks, according to paragraphs D and E, the reason why the differences among individuals should be valuable is that. So it asks the reason why. Here I have the last two sentences from paragraph D because the question asks from paragraphs D and E. The related part was these two sentences from paragraph D, and I have paragraph E here. In paragraph D, the writer says one human being can do something that another human being cannot. This diversity is what makes the human race viable. It means able to continue to live and able to withstand extinction. So this diversity, thanks to this diversity, we can survive, it says. Paragraph D says. When we come to paragraph E, here the differences among individuals should be valued according to the writer. This is not because we want to become tolerant of differences among people, though. It is not because we want to become tolerant. It means we don't want to, of course, tolerate differences among people. This is not the reason, it says. We must cherish diversity because it is essential to our very survival. It is essential. Here, essential means vital. So these two words are synonyms. So A is correct. Diversity is vital for humankind to survive. If you keep reading, you will see more support for option A. The variations among us increase the chances that the human race as a whole will be able to adapt to almost anything that it may encounter. The writer emphasizes how one individual needs another individual to survive in this world. Okay, so according to the writer, we must cherish, we must love, protect diversity because it is vital for humankind to survive. As for option B, differences result from adaptability rather than leading to it. It means causing it. No, it's both a cause and an effect. This is what the writer says here. See, people need to tolerate individual differences. Need to tolerate? Do they need to? According to the writer, no. The writer says this is not because we want to become tolerant. This is not because. The writer explicitly, directly gives the idea that we don't need to tolerate differences. The point is that we need each other to survive. As long as we are diverse, we can survive more conditions together. Yes, this was the last question, everyone. I hope you find the explanations helpful. Thank you for listening to me. Good luck.